All right. Draymond Green says that he's been listening to Dan Dibley for 4 weeks.
So oftentimes in what we do, you try your hardest to block out the noise, try your best to not log on to this thing or not go on to that thing, not go watch this TV station, because at times it can be very, very, very overbearing on top of what's already a very stressful life and a very stressful job. This time I did the opposite. I dove all the way into all of it. So everything that everyone has said, I mean, it's impossible to hear everything because there's so much. But I've heard a great deal of what everyone has said. And normally I'd want to say, F you, or watch me show you, or I'm going to take that, I'm going to bottle all of it up, and I'm going to use it to make sure I can throw it back in your face. If I'm honest, that fuel has driven me so far. And being able to bottle those things up has driven me to who you know today. The reason you know the name Draymond Green, I wouldn't say in large part because there's a lot that go into it, but a part of that is that fuel of grabbing all of those things and saying, now watch what I do to you with the fuel that you've given me. And this time was different for me. I watched him and I listened.
Okay. He listened. And in what I find to be one of the greatest upsets of all time, Dan Dibley believed him.
Yeah, I believed him.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just surprised that you do.
I'm also surprised that I do. And I can only be as authentic as possible on the show. And it's what you and I agreed we would be when we started this 2.5 years ago. And I was surprised myself. And I kept waiting as I listened to it. And I've listened to about half the pod so far. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. And even in that quote that you just played right there, that to me is the biggest takeaway for me as far as why I believe him, because he's honest with what he normally would do, which is F you. I'm using this as fuel, and I'm going to go back out there, and I'm going to double down. I'm going to get a tech, and then I'm going to get 2 techs, and I'm going to commit a flagrant, and if you don't call it, I'm going to commit a double flagrant. I'm going to commit a flagrant 1, a 2, not 5, not 6, not 7. I'm Draymond Green. This is how I play. And what I've heard him say in this podcast is an acknowledgement of all of those things, but it's also an awareness of him needing to change and him being ready to make that change. And I know the proof is in the pudding, and we won't know about the pudding until he comes back, probably not till Friday, I would guess. I think that he accompanies the team on the road trip, and maybe he makes his re-emergence on Friday, right, against Chicago. And once we see him back on the court, that's when we can all start to fully believe or still not believe that he's going to make a change.
Monster Monday brought to you by First 5 California. To learn 4 things you can do to overcome toxic stress, go to first5california.com. Festus Ezeli is going to join us in 15 minutes. Festus was a Draymond teammate, as all of you know, so we'll get his perspective. I very much look forward to that. That's coming up in just about 15 minutes. Also, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union, the smart choice for low auto loan rates and super simple online application process. So we promised you the story then. Once he had been listening to Dibs for 3 weeks, that he was all depressed because he's like, that guy Dan Dibley doesn't like me. Then he went to his man cave because that's where you go when you're depressed. And then when you're a girl dad, your daughter comes and gets you out of there.
I'll say we're at December 14th. I sat in my man cave for 2 days and just sat there. My kids didn't know I was home. The only person really knew I was home was my wife. And my daughter, my 3-year-old, she FaceTimed me. And she said, Daddy, you in the man cave? And I said, I am. And she just dropped the phone and came running back there and pulled me out into the yard, and we played. And I'm not sure how much longer I would have sat back there, but I know it wouldn't have been the 14th. And it was special because I was just sitting back there in the dark, listening to what everyone had to say. And although I didn't stop listening that day, I realized that I had to move forward that day.
Sitting in his man cave in the dark, listening to social media, very, very probable, by the way, listening to 95.7 The Game. He's referenced it before. He knows where to go to find Warrior content.
Yeah, wall to wall.
Yeah.
We did days, if not weeks on it, and so, yeah, he's listening to it.
Well, by the way, that's a point to bring into something that you've already said today. Like, listen to this. Listen to this.
To us?
If I'm Joe Lacob, all you Warrior fans, tune in and talk about this every day. Sometimes I don't know what the hell would need to happen for Draymond Green to not be the lead story the next day.
Yeah.
If I'm Joe Lacob, I'm trading that?
No chance. And Joe Lacob wasn't here when you and I were both already in the business, and I can tell you story after story about being on the other station and not talking about the Golden State Warriors. And I would text with Raymond Ritter, VP of Communications, and he would always, pitch stories. And every year after the draft, he would say, hey, we're coming by. We're bringing the rookies by, and we got some presents for you. And so in comes Patrick O'Brien. And I met Ike Diagu, and I met all these other Warriors because the Golden State Warriors were desperate for attention. And so Raymond Ritter and company would parade these guys around on a preseason tour to get us, at least for a segment, to talk about this product, because the product wasn't great and fans weren't that dialed in. I know they'd sell out the arena and all the rest of it, but now you've got a team that is world renowned. You're a dynasty. And even when you're not playing well, like think about this team this year. You're 17-19. You're mostly dull, but you've got the chef and you've got Clay. He's up and down and all the other stories, but you also have Draymond Green, who makes global news every single time he does anything. So to your point, it's good for business to have a Draymond Green on your team.
Yeah, Sammy G on YouTube says the story needs to be about basketball, period. I disagree. That needs to be the main story. If you're going to be a great team, that needs to be the backdrop for what's going on. But do you guys all not realize that we're watching reality television? You don't realize that? The Giants story last year was all about baseball.
What? Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
They pitched and they swung bats. Sometimes balls went over the fence. You don't remember a damn moment from the whole year because there are no characters in the show. There's no television characters. You need television characters. If Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown sit out this game this weekend, when the Eagles play the Bucks, you probably skip it because there's no television characters. What are you going to do? Rashad White is playing. What? What? You want to watch the Cowboys play the Packers.
Even think about tonight's game. If you're a casual college football fan, and I say Michigan is taking on Washington.
Jim Harbaugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Name a Michigan player. You'd be hard pressed.
No. Why is everyone so excited about the Lions and the Rams? Why? Because Lions and Rams? The Lions have absolutely no playoff pedigree whatsoever. But McVay versus Goff and Stafford going home? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a great TV show. So never forget that conversation happens behind closed doors when you're running a $7 billion corporation. And that's exactly what they're doing. All right, let's get to some calls. Festus Ezeli in a little bit over 10 minutes. How about Javier in Pittsburgh? Hi, Javier. What are you doing?
How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Hey, so I wanted to tell all the fans we need to reset our expectations. Everybody acts like we're supposed to win every year. Like, we're getting that attitude, like, had us in the coffin already, and then for some reason they didn't end up winning. There's real problems out here, man. Do you know that Kelly Moore Paint Store is about to close down forever? And they're worried about basketball. I love basketball. Been a fan a long time, but you got to let you said it's reality TV. Everybody overdoes it because they know everybody's watching, man.
Javier, what are you getting at? There are bigger problems in the world, so people shouldn't worry about the Warrior record?
No. We should reset our expectations is the bottom line.
Yeah.
We're not going to be on top forever, and we're proving it.
I didn't understand what the Kelly Paint thing had to do with
Kelly Moore.
Kelly Moore. Sorry, what that had to do with Draymond Green returning to the action or whatnot. I agree with your premise. I just wasn't sure what your why was.
It's an example of bigger things to worry about.
Yeah, but I don't.
We're down a paint store, Mark.
Yeah, but come on. Do you ever get into that? If there are bigger things to worry about, then why are we sportsing? What are we doing? Why do we care to begin with?
Because
there's always bigger things to worry about.
Well, the whole toy department of life thing, of course, there are bigger things to worry about. But when you look for that escape and you escape into sports, then you can allow yourself to really, quote, worry about sports. And that's why, my fandom as I've gotten older has diminished a little bit because of that very notion. There are other things to worry about. I got 3 kids and a bunch of problems, for example.
Well, but and I know it's not how you mean it literally, but you should never worry about it. Like I've argued that
I don't worry about it.
Don't ever let the outcome of the event ruin your day. That's on you. I firmly believe that, and believe me, it's happened, and sure, it changes our kind of vibe and our feel and all of that. But yeah. Like, let's get into this. Let's have a ton of fun with this. We can even argue about this. We can get mad at this. But, like, you're not going to let it, like, destroy your day or your week or your job or your family. I don't know. I mean...
You shouldn't.
I hope not.
No. And, I mean, that's where you get into the gambling side of it. And if you're going to gamble and if you're betting money that you probably shouldn't bet, then it can ruin your life. Or... if you're a 49ers season ticket holder, for example, and you're banking on 2 home games worth of tickets that maybe you can sell, and you only get 1 home game because they spit the bit in the divisional round, well, that can be a real world issue. But in general, what you're talking about is exactly where I sit as a fan. I watched that game last night, and I was listening to a bunch of it with Tim and Tom right here on 95.7 The Game, and that game stunk. And I was bummed about it for about 60 seconds. And then...
I just went over the Buffalo game.
Yeah, I was, kind of going back and forth, doing the toggle.
Buffalo.
And, man, felt bad for Miami, too. Felt equally bad for Miami and the Warriors.
You did?
Yeah, I mean, Miami,
they're
not the answer. They're not the sauce.
They're so banged up.
Yeah.
And Buffalo should have been up 14 different times, and Josh Allen just keeps turning the ball over.
That's what he does.
Like it's as if he's trying to turn the thing over out there. But in the end, they still won anyway. All right, let's go to Kirk in Los Altos. Hey, Kirk, what's going on? What are you doing?
Hi. How are you? And thank you for taking the call.
Yeah.
And I apologize for messing up with the phone earlier this afternoon.
Don't you ever do it again, Kirk.
I had to learn how to manage these different automobiles. But I will say I called in response to what you said a long time ago earlier in the show about how that one gentleman called in and you replied that your sentiments were more with what you thought the management was about the big 3. That to do what you could to keep them together, et cetera, et cetera. But then again, I juxtapose that with what Mr. Dibley said about running a business. And then I recall what Bill Walsh said so many years ago, that he'd rather get rid of somebody a year early than a year late. And with all that in mind, I guess I would, if I was running the show, I would really wonder if it was, how important it was to keep these 3 together. And then, maybe... they caught lightning in a bottle a couple of years ago when they won that championship because a team or 2 got knocked out in other rounds ahead of them. But it just, like the previous caller said, with this pedigree that we seem to have adopted about championships, and more championships, maybe it's just time to, fold our cards and get ready to start over and work for something to come in a few more years.
Yeah, Kirk, I don't think that's a crazy thought. Thank you for calling. I just don't. I'm not convinced that this move or these moves that y'all want to make are going to help rebuild this team at all. Trade Draymond. What are you going to get for that? What are you going to get for somebody who's owed almost $90 million? He's 1 punch away from being suspended for the remainder of the year, if not his career. What are you getting for Draymond Green? What are you getting for expiring Klay Thompson at $43 million?
Those aren't the pieces. To me, it's Chris Paul, it's Wiggins, and it's Kuminga.
Yeah, but that's not
Moody.
But that's not moving on from the big 3.
No, I don't think you're moving on from the big 3.
I agree.
And, can you move on from the others and get a piece that can still help you be a contender? And I don't think that any move you can make, I agree with you, there's nothing that you can do that's out there realistically that can make you a championship team this year. And last week somebody said, trade for Kevin Durant. Okay. and see if the Lakers will give you LeBron too.
Because Kevin's been crushing it for the last 5 years since he left. It's been amazing, all the playoff wins.
Oh, he's averaging about 31 this year.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And
they're-
you've won with Kevin Durant.
And they're what, 2 games over 500?
Right.
Yeah.
But even if you went and traded Wiggins, Kuminga, Moody, and Chris Paul and a couple of picks and you got Kevin Durant, are you going to be a championship team this year?
No.
You'd be closer. You'd be better.
Yeah, you'd be better. You'd be better.
I just want to see him contend. I just want to see him
That's fine.
in the playoffs, playing a series against somebody, and see if you can make some noise.
Everybody also should do this though. If you're going to say it on the radio, I want you to actually imagine how it would feel. You've got tickets to a Warrior game, the first Warrior game, after one of the big 3 got traded. Just find your seats, get your popcorn, and you tell me how that feels.
Depends on which of the big 3, honestly. If it's Draymond, it hurts less than if it's Clay. And if it's Steph that's gone, well, then I'm selling the tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I agree. I have no interest.
If they trade Draymond in the next 4 days, 4 weeks and 3 days, it would be a blow. It would be the end of an era. But as a Warrior fan, you could move on.
I'd be bothered. I'd be bothered.
If they traded Steph, you'd be gutted.
Totally.
If they traded Clay, you'd be bothered more.
Totally. I agree with your ranking.
Yeah.
But to all 3 of them is going to be a no from me, dog.